Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Eva Marie, and if this is your first time here, please make sure to subscribe if you like what you see, and leave a comment about your thoughts, your opinions, what you like, what you want to see more of. This is my second video here on YouTube, so I really want to see what you guys are liking, what people are interested in, and receive any feedback. So, my first video that I made on here, I was talking about what it's like to be Black in Italy, and I talked about my experiences, what it's like dating here, what it's like finding a job, some of the realities of the situation of being in Italy. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to leave a link for that either up here or in the description below. And you can click on that video, of course. For this video, I really wanted to talk about how do you quit your 9-to-5 and move abroad. I think that this is something that is really popular, mainly for millennials, or maybe not just for millennials, but for a lot of young people right now, millennials and below. We're very much into entrepreneurship. We're very much into quitting our jobs, living a life of freedom, traveling. And so there's a lot of voices, especially if you're on the gram, talking about, quit your 9-to-5, move to Bali, go abroad. I travel and work for a living. There's a lot of noise with people talking about how they've quit their jobs, how they've moved abroad. But no one's actually saying how they did it. And for me, I found that really, really frustrating when I was trying to figure out how to come to Italy, what was a process that I needed to go through. And to be quite honest, I made a lot of mistakes and I had a lot of trial and error coming here. So to save anyone from that, if you want to move abroad, I am going to teach you right now how to quit your job and how to move to a different country, or just how to travel. Okay, maybe not how to travel because I am in one place, and traveling is a little bit different from just being an expat. Okay, so before I get into the nitty-gritty of how to really formulate a plan and move abroad, I want to add a disclaimer. Please be clear if moving abroad is actually right for you. I think that there are so many people who we're constantly receiving this messaging, on Instagram, on social media, that so many people are quitting their jobs, they're becoming influencers, they're traveling all the time, and they're making money through travel, they're making money through living abroad, and it's just easy, 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 and easy, 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 easy money. Which maybe enough time has passed where people understand that that's not actually the case. But I think there's enough people who really believe that they can do it for themselves, but don't always have all of the information available to them, or they don't necessarily have the realities of what it is to leave home and move to a different country. And I'm one of those people. I was really, really determined to live abroad. I've always wanted to live abroad since I was in high school. It was a dream of mine. I originally thought that I was going to live in France. I didn't go to France, I came to Italy. But it was something that I've always had the goal of doing. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know what it entailed. And the process of me getting here was pretty difficult. So just really understand if it's worth it and what kind of lifestyle you want to live. For example, are you okay with teaching English? Or are you okay with being an au pair? Are you okay with working for the UN or working a 9-to-5 somewhere here? Because here's the thing, if you don't already have a source of income for yourself, like you're doing some kind of freelance work, or you have established some type of business, it's going to be difficult to find that kind of work in a new country where maybe you don't speak the language. So I'm not going to speak for everyone, because some people go abroad and they speak plenty of languages, and so they're easily able to assimilate and fit in and to find work. But if you're someone where you don't speak the language and you're wanting to move abroad, you're wanting to travel, chances are you're going to fall into one of two careers: au pairing or teaching English. And if you're not up for either one of those things, maybe moving abroad is not right for you. So take the time to think about what's actually right for you versus just paying attention to what feels good. Because I think it's nice to think that you can move abroad and you can live in a beautiful city and you can have a great, fantastic, wonderful time. But then you get the rude awakening of when you come here, you know, not a lot of countries run the way the United States does. And so it's going to be culture clash. Maybe you're not going to make the same kind of money that you were used to. You're going to have to be dealing with a new language. You're going to have to be dealing with like somebody's kids if you end up au pairing, which I've heard au pair horror stories living here in Italy. Or you could be teaching English and it really may not be exciting for you or satisfying. And this is all like if you don't have a business of your own or you don't have a job that you're coming here with. You know, there's some people who come here and they've already got a job. They're working for an American company. That's amazing. That's great. And if that's your goal when you come here, that's also amazing and that's great. But it will take some time. And in the meantime, you're going to need cash monies. And in order to get cash, you're going to have to do work that maybe you're not going to be excited about. So if you have the type of personality where you can just stick it through and you can get it done, then that's great. But if you don't, and you know that like you don't want to teach English and you don't want to wipe nobody's butt, girl, stay at home. Don't come here. Don't come abroad. Don't come to a different country. Unless you go to like London where they speak English. Go to a country where they speak English. I'm being kind of, I guess maybe like ignorant. I'm talking about like people going to other countries where they don't speak the language. But if you're going to like the UK or you're going to like Australia, you'll be fine. But if you're coming to like Italy, Spain, Germany, wherever, someplace in Europe, or I don't really know how it works if you're going to like countries in Africa or in South America, but I think it's the same. You have to teach English, you have to au pair, and if you don't want to do that, like just don't leave. Stay home or go to an English-speaking country because you're going to have much more opportunity than if you do something else. Also, something to note is that moving abroad can derail your career. And if having a nice job is important to you, and I know the title of this video is like how to quit your 9-to-5 and to move abroad, but sometimes after a point you may realize that quitting your 9-to-5 isn't actually what you want. Like you would rather work a 9-to-5 job. Just be prepared that, you know, when you come home, there might be questions, right? Like there may be employers who are going to look at your resume and be like, you've had a lot of time off. Why? And that can be a little bit scary. So just keep that in mind. And I would say that while you are abroad, try to find some work that's relevant to your career. If you can, great. If you can't, whatever. But try to see what you can do. I've known so many people who come to Italy, who I've met, who have been nurses, who worked in finance, who worked in, you know, me, marketing. And sometimes we talk and we're like, oh my gosh, if I go back home and I decide to get a 9-to-5 again, you know, how am I going to explain this like 1 year, 2-year gap in my resume? So it is something to think about. It can kind of push you back. But it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, because no matter what, you will always find a 9-to-5, especially coming and living in America. It's not that hard to find a job. Okay, I don't want to sound like, maybe that's my privilege speaking, but I don't think it's that hard to find a job for the most part. Now to the nitty-gritty. If you are going to move abroad, if you're going to quit your job and you're going to get on a plane and you're going to move abroad, you have to make a plan. Some people can be really spontaneous and they can just quit their job and they can just, oh, you know, I'm going to be in Bali next week. Don't do that. Please, please take the time to plan. Take the time to research. Research the country you want to go to. Research the culture. Try to make friends and find and connect with people who have lived in that country before. Okay? When I knew I was coming to Italy, I was very well aware of the situation I was getting myself into. I talked to so many people, and so many people were like, why in the world are you going to Italy? There's no jobs. There's no opportunity. It's a really difficult life there. And so I was prepared for that. Like, I was mentally prepared. I was still very optimistic, but after being here for a year, I can definitely say that a lot of those people were right. The opportunity here is not a lot. There's not a lot of opportunity here. It's incredibly easy to find a job teaching English because they need it here. There's a super high demand for it, but the pay is not very great. So those are just things that, like, I knew going in to my move. So after being here for some time, it hasn't been a shock that it's like this. And I don't have this experience of like my rose-colored glasses being shattered, because I essentially knew that Italy had a lot of its own issues and that I was going to be confronted with those coming here, right? So that's number one. Research the place that you want to go to. Okay. Number two, figure out how much money you will need to survive. You need to understand what is the standard of living in the city you're going to be in. Okay, because the last thing you want to do is move somewhere and then realize that the kind of money you need to make is going to be really difficult to achieve. For example, I would say in Rome specifically, you can live fairly well on like 1,200 euro a month. But it's not always easy to make that 1,200 euro. You can definitely do it if you're teaching English. If you're au pairing, probably not. But if you're au pairing, you're living with a family anyway, so you're not going to have to pay for rent and things like that. But it's good to know how much money you're going to need to make and if it's actually feasible for you to do that. And this is why I would say that the best thing you can do to help yourself before you even come to the country is to save your money. So once you know how much you need, save. Save enough money to be able to support yourself off of your savings alone for at minimum 3 to 6 months. You should have at least 3 to 6 months worth of savings in your bank account. I would even say save up to as much of a year if you can. Like, if you really got it like that and you can put away that kind of money, do it. Because the amount of ease that will put your mind in is amazing. When I came to Italy, I had at least $10,000 saved. And it was enough to get me by for like 6 months. So I would just recommend that you just start putting money away. The second you know you want to leave, just start putting money away. And the best thing that you can do to do that, because I know everybody has their different economic situations and how much money they're able to make in, you know, a given month or a year, whatever. But understand how much money you're going to need and the time frame you're willing to allow yourself in order to make that money. Like when I knew I wanted to move to Rome, initially my plan was to save up to $20,000. And unfortunately, I was only able to save half of that because in the time frame that I had, I was laid off. And so I really didn't have the ability to save the way that I wanted to. And so I had to cut in half how much money I was able to put away into my bank because I wasn't going to extend my time in New York in order to save more. But just know, like, understand how long are you going to need to save that money. So if your goal is to save $10,000 for your trip, how much time will you need to do it? And how much money will you need to put away each month? So for me, when I was saving, I knew that I needed to put at least $1,000 away a month. And that's what I did. Sometimes I put away $1,500 a month. And I made sure that I budgeted very carefully so that I really wasn't going out with friends, I wasn't shopping, I wasn't going out for dinner, like I wasn't buying drinks, I wasn't doing those kinds of things. I mainly was just paying my rent, I was paying my expenses, and I was just living very modestly in that time. And I had a couple months where like I didn't go to the gym, like I wouldn't pay my gym membership. Luckily I had a gym where they were really nice, and when they knew like I wasn't working and I was in a period where I was getting laid off, they didn't make me pay, they didn't ask me to pay them. And that was really, they were just amazing people. Shout out to Seton Gym in Queens, New York. Again, just understand how much time do you need and how much money do you need to put away each month. And make sure that you're set up for a direct savings, for a direct deposit. And once you get that direct deposit, make sure that you're funneling that amount of money automatically into a savings account. If you are not doing that, you are not going to save. Period. Like some people are really good at saving their money. If you're not good at saving your money, then you need to just automatically put your money from your paycheck into your savings account. And if you're that type of person who constantly dips into your savings account, then you probably need to open up a credit union or some other form of a savings account where there will be high penalties for you taking out that money. Before you get into the visa stuff, you need to figure out how you are getting to the country. You need to understand, are you teaching English? Are you going as a student? Like, are you studying abroad? Are you going to become a teacher? Are you going to become an au pair? Are you going to be working for an American company? Are you already a thriving business owner? Are you a freelance worker and you already have some kind of client or many clients who are funding your lifestyle? You really got to be able to justify why you should be eligible to stay in a country for a long term. Because it's going to be really difficult. And if you don't have a good enough reason, sorry, you're just not going to be able to go. You're going to have to do the 3 months thing and then, I don't know, find someone to marry. I'm kidding. But I will say this, the easiest ways to get into a country are as a student. That is the #1 easiest way to get into a country. And most countries, some countries, will allow you to go just taking a language course. I know for Italy, that is what I did. The way that I came here and I was able to stay here for 1 year is that I came here as a student. And I signed up for a language course, and so I've been able to be here for 1 year, and I'm working on figuring out how to renew my permesso and my visa right now. But that is how my 1 year is not up yet, so I have some time. But that is the #1 easiest way to get into a country, is just to be a student. That doesn't always mean that you have to do a university. You can absolutely take a language course if the country allows it, maybe some kind of art course, something like that. Whatever they recognize and consider an eligible reason for you to have a long-term visa. So once you have found out how much money you need, how much money you're going to save, the city you want to go to, you need to tackle the most difficult part of going to another country: the visa. Getting a visa to go abroad is not very easy. It's probably, depending on which country you're going to, it's probably the most like hell, like raising experience, because you have to find all the information yourself. You have to try to get in touch with your local consulate. Maybe if the consulate isn't located in your state or your city, you're going to have to drive 3 or 4 hours to get to another state. You have to, in that case, make sure that all of your paperwork is completely accurate and all together. Otherwise, you're going to have to come back. So the first thing that I say about the visa, first you need to find out where your local consulate is. And make sure you know whether it's in your state or if you're going to have to drive a further distance in order to get there, because that's going to be the most important thing. Then I suggest you book your consulate appointment. You need to book your appointment 3 months out. Okay, so if I am trying to book a consulate appointment today, my appointment is not going to be next week. It's going to be in 3 months. It's really difficult to get these appointments at the consulate because they're not open in all these specific hours, and quite often a lot of people are trying to go and a lot of people are trying to get their visa paperwork finished. Also, make sure that you leave enough time from your consulate visit to your actual flight, okay? Because, and I'm talking about the flight for when you leave the country, because if in the chance something goes wrong at the consulate visit and your visa application is denied, you cannot leave the country. Or if you leave, you are going to have to come back, which is what happened to me. So to avoid something like that, make sure that you are not, by any means possible, leaving your appointment at the consulate to the last minute. Just assume that everything will go wrong, okay? Assume that your visa will be denied and that you will have to go back and you will have to fix your paperwork and you will have to return. Just do it that way. Make sure make sure you have all your paperwork so that that doesn't happen, but mentally prepare yourself for the event that it does. Because you don't want to be like me, where you go to the consulate, your visa application is denied because you don't have the right paperwork, and your flight is in 2 weeks, and the next appointment that you can get at the consulate is in 3 months. Just don't let that happen to you. It's really, really frustrating. It's an annoying process. It's an expensive process because then you have to fly back home and then you have to fly back out. Just don't do it. The final thing that I really want to point out is that it's as exciting as it can be to leave home and to come to a different country. There is the possibility that you may realize that you don't actually like the new city that you chose. And I just would hope that anyone who's thinking about going abroad goes into it thinking that if you don't like it, it's okay and you can absolutely go back home. And it doesn't make you a failure, and it doesn't make you a loser, and it doesn't make you it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. Sometimes the truth is, it's just that home is home and your country is your country. Don't feel bad if you decide that the country that you're in is not for you and you would much rather go home. Go home. It's okay. Being here and living in Rome, I know 1000% I do not want to live here for the rest of my life. I know that I'm going to go back to the United States. I know that I'm going to go back home. Maybe not to Boston, where I'm from, but definitely I'm going to go back to some other state. And I don't feel bad about that whatsoever. So with all that being said, have an exit plan. Really understand, like, how long do you think you're going to be in the country and how are you going to make your way back? And that's absolutely something that I'm working on now. Like, I'm always trying to figure out, okay, when am I going to go? Because I think, to be quite honest, I think this 1 year is going to be my last year here in Italy. And I have to figure out, okay, what am I going to do and what's the process of going back home afterwards? And I just recommend that to everyone. Just acknowledge and recognize that you may not like it. You may want to go home, and that's okay, and there's nothing wrong with that, and you don't have to feel like a failure, and you don't have to feel like you're a loser because you went abroad and all this type of stuff. And don't let other people who maybe are back home, who will talk to you and be like, oh my God, but you're living in Italy, or you're living abroad, you're living in Bali, like you should be so happy, you're so lucky. If you're miserable, crying on the beach in Bali, go home, okay? Like, there have been serious moments where I've been here in this past year and I have been like, why am I here? Should I go home? And that's okay. Like, not every single moment in your country is going to be amazing. Not every single moment that you're away from home is going to be super exciting and you're going to be having the best time. You're going to be dealing with a lot of culture shock. You're going to be dealing with different kinds of people. And it can be really overwhelming. And if there are moments where you just feel like, I just want to quit and I want to go home, and it really, really is on your heart that that's what's right for you and that's what you need to do, answer that. Don't try to fight it. Don't try to be like, I have to stick it out and I have to stay. I have to prove to myself that I can do this. If that's not what's going to make you happy, go home. If, on the other hand, you know that you can come out from the other side of it, then that's amazing. Then do that. But if you know it's not for you, go home. Go home. Really. There's nothing wrong with it. I just want to be that voice of reason for people, because it ain't easy to live abroad, and it's not for everybody, and it's not easy, and it's just a lot of paperwork, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of confusion, and sometimes it may not always be worth it. So with that, that's all for this video today. I will catch you in the next one, and once again, please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to hear some more stories about Italy, and just, you know, travel, moving abroad, blah blah blah. Okay, ciao a tutti!